Do you remember maybe that time when Hitler used methamphetamine in order to conquer France? Well, okay, here we go. So, what am I talking about? Well, in 1937, a German chemist Fritz Hauschild synthesized pervitin, and pervitin is actually a form of methamphetamine that was used in order to give energy to soldiers and to allow them not to sleep, to cause fearlessness, and pervitin was even perfectly legal in Germany until 1941, and at the same time the Nazis were killing all the drug addicts because they saw them as one of those groups that needed to die. But methamphetamine wasn't seen as a harmful drug, which is why it was perfectly legal. But in 1941 the Germans realized that methamphetamine is actually not that harmless as it seems. It was also used in the Polish campaign, pervitin it was, and it gave pretty good results during the Polish campaign. But what happened in France? Well, it also gave Germans great success, but I'll talk about some downsides of using methamphetamine on a large scale. The German military was given the instruction to use 1 pill per day and 2 per night. I'm talking about pervitin. But to be perfectly honest, there are many reasons for why the German attack on France was so successful. It wasn't just that crazy Germans were on meth and that's how they won. Well, first of all, General Mainstein, had this brilliant idea of attacking throughout the Ardennes, and at the time people actually thought that the tanks were unable to penetrate the Ardennes forests, but it turns out they were, which is why the French were completely taken by surprise. Then also, what needs to be said is that the German tanks had just the right ratio of maneuverability and speed, and that is why they were able to move very quickly, and often the speed of the German tanks that would simply shock the French, and on multiple occasions the French troops actually mistook German tanks for British tanks because they thought, no way, these guys are moving so quickly. But additional reason for their quickness was the fact that they were using methamphetamine, and when you're on meth you can just drive a tank for 48 hours without sleep, and that also was one of the important reasons for the quickness of the German military, and precisely through their speed the Germans were able to blitzkrieg the French and surround them, and in the end win the war very quickly. But now I want to tell you something about the downsides of meth, which is why methamphetamine wasn't used on the large scale in the East, on the Eastern Front, because by 1941 Hitler was aware of the downsides. Some German soldiers experienced fearlessness and euphoria, which is kind of good for waging a war, but they also experienced delirium, hallucinations, and heart failure. Some German soldiers just died from heart failure, and others saw monsters in the French woods, which is why they emptied their magazines into the trees, which also wasn't useful, and many of them just started to act irrationally and do push-ups for no reason and stuff like that, which is why the German military decided to not use such large doses of methamphetamine in their conquest of the Soviet Union. But one of the most bizarre stories that I heard about usage of meth in war simply has to be a story of a Finnish soldier that used it during the continuation war with the Soviets. So Oimo Koivun, this soldier, and I will put a link in the description, there is a great video that tells his entire story, was a Finnish soldier that was pursued by the Soviets, and in order to escape he ate entire box of these pervitin pills, which made him enter a trip that lasted for 5 days. And his story is truly fascinating. He mistook the Soviets for Finnish soldiers and managed to ski through the Soviet positions he somehow escaped, and then later he remembered his speaking to his friend, and his friend obviously wasn't even there. Then he just gave his rifle to a tree because he mistook a rifle for his friend. He ate raw birds, and allegedly he saw dancing bears, and in the end he stepped on a landmine, and his trip therefore had a very bad ending. But I will put the video in the description if you want to hear his entire story. But yeah, Nazis actually did manage to use meth, at least in France. They utilized it in a very effective way, and they won the war.